Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is part 3 of What If Itachi Was in High School DxD. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe, and also go and support the author, link in description. A year had passed since Itachi recruited little Jack into his peerage. Itachi was currently in the midst of planning the recruitment of a new peerage member. He looked through the file and saw that there was only one candidate left of those they had found. Harry Newgate. Nothing much was known about him, except that he was an elderly gentleman and that his last known location was Hawaii. Speaking of peerage members, Kurika, Bob in his 8-hour state and Jack just walked in to greet their master. "Hello there, Itachi-sama." "Naya." Kurika greeted with a beaming smile and hugged Itachi's stoic face between her developing, yet very large breasts. "Let go of me, Kurika." Itachi muffled as his face was being pushed between two soft mountains. "Eh? I just wanna play." "Naya." Kurika pouted and then had a lustful smile on her face, as she tightened her embrace. "I can't breathe." Itachi muffled, and Kurika was lifted away by Bob, whom threw the surprised Nikomata over his shoulder. "Hey. Bob, put me down." Kurika kicked her legs back and forth, while Itachi gave Bob a thankful look. "Now then, oh." Itachi was about to go back to browsing through the files, when suddenly Jack sat down on his lap with a childlike smile on her face. Itachi smiled a little and petted the top of Jack's head, much to her enjoyment. "Mama," Jack said with joy, to which caused Itachi to sweat drop, as the little assassin hadn't stopped calling him mommy or mama, although he didn't care that much, well, as long as Jack didn't call him that in public. "So, do we have a location on the next member?" Bob questioned with a raised brow, having finally put Kurika down, whom had gone over to hug Itachi from behind while wagging her tails back and forth like a cat. "Last known location says his in Hawaii, although the information was the same a year ago, so I wonder if he is still there." Itachi replied and tried to see if he could find more information on this Harry Newgate. "Does that mean we are going to Hawaii?" Kurika asked with a little hint of excitement in her voice, at the thought of showing off her swimsuit to Itachi. "Yeah, I was thinking we all go there first thing tomorrow. So Bob, I suggest you get a good 23-hour sleep, just in case." Itachi said, and Bob gave a bow. "Understood, Master Itachi." "It 10. Sirafal suddenly jumped into the room, and grabbed Itachi, hugging him tightly with his face right next to her bouncing chest. "How thoughtful. You knew I had the day off from my duties and decided to go on a vacation. I can't wait to go on a family vacation with you and Sotan." Sirafal, having overheard their conversation, well, parts of it anyway, seems to have misunderstood. "Nay-san. I think you might have." Itachi stopped mid-sentence, seeing the hopeful, happy look on his older sister's face. He could only imagine if he told her that she had misunderstood. In Itachi's mind, "Why no fair it 10. Oni-chan wanted to go with you. I wanted to show it-tan my fabulous new swimsuit." "Wha? It-tan, you dummy." Sirafal cried while rolling around the floor like a child, in front of a sweat-dropping Itachi. Back in reality. "What?" Sirafal tilted her head to the side, still with a joyful childlike smile. Itachi needed to think of a good lie, and fast. "I was actually thinking of inviting Rias as well." Itachi just blurted out the first thing that came to his mind. For some reason it was the red-haired Gramarye princess that was also his fiancée. "Oh." Sirafal had a suspicious look on her face and was glaring at Itachi. "You are not trying to get all lovey-dovey with Rias-chan, right?" Sirafal questioned, being the overprotective and obsessive older sister that she was. "Of course not." Itachi tried his best to keep up his stoic, unreadable expression. "Oh? Because it-tan, you and Sotan belong to Oni-sama only, right?" Sirafal asked with a lot of pressure added behind her words. "I think that is only in your head." Itachi uttered, as he wasn't going to agree to that. Sirafal pouted a little cutely and looked Itachi in the eyes. Fine. Sirafal then beamed with a smile. Rias-chan can come too. Sirafal said and cheerfully went out of the room to tell Sana and the others, while Itachi let out a sigh. Will this work out, Itachi-sama? Kurika asked as if Sirafal found out this was only another mission to get a new peerage member, and that Itachi wasn't really planning on spending that much family time with Sirafal and Sana. Sirafal might end up throwing a hissy fit. Perhaps Kurika, Jack, and I should look for this Harry Newgate while you relax. Bob suggested. No, it's fine, I will find a way. Besides, thanks to my familiar I have the perfect way to work this out. Itachi said as he summoned forth a crow on his shoulder. Next day, in Hawaii. Yay! The beach. Sirafal cheered as she was in a black bikini that revealed much of her cleavage. In front of her was the vast blue ocean that both her, and Sana in her dark blue bikini looked at with stars in their eyes. Their parents, Lord Satrai and Lady Satrai, were sitting underneath a parasol with drinks in their hands. Standing near Sana was her queen Tsubaki, wearing a similar bikini to her king, although Tsubaki had a bigger top as her chest was massive in comparison. And next to her was a silver-haired young girl about a year younger than Sana and Tsubaki. She was dressed in a silver bikini supporting her massive bust that rivaled Tsubaki. This was Momo Hanakai, Sana's new bishop that she got about 2 weeks after Itachi got Jack. Itachi was standing on the side wearing a pair of black trunks, while Bob was in his 23-hour state was wearing dark blue trunks. Kurika was dressed in a black bikini supporting her massive bust, as well as having a white cloth wrapped around her hip covering her right leg. Itachi-sama, what do you think? Naya. Kurika leaned forward while pushing her breasts up while giving Itachi seductive stares. Of what? Itachi decided to play oblivious. My swimsuit. Naya. Kurika pouted in irritation. Oh, it looks good on you. Itachi replied much to Kurika's joy. Mama, what about us? Jack's voice was heard and Itachi turned around, and almost fell forward. Seeing as Jack was dressed in a black string-like swimsuit that only barely covered her parts. Who gave you that? Itachi questioned with a stoic expression. We just bought it, Sirafal said it looked good on us. Jack replied with a stoic expression, causing Itachi to sweat drop at his older sister unknowingly causing problems for him. Well, how do we look? You don't have anything else to wear, do you? Itachi questioned, to which Jack shook her head. Sure, it looks good. Itachi. A familiar voice called out to him. Itachi turned around and was faced with the young Rias Gremory. Rias was dressed in a white bikini that revealed much of her cleavage and supported her massive bust. How do I look? Rias asked with a cute face and her blue eyes looking like they were sparkling. Itachi was a little taken aback and blinked for a few seconds. Oh, yes, you look good. Itachi replied, to which Rias smiled and hugged his right arm between her big soft bouncing breasts. And then his other arm was hugged by a slight pair of bigger breasts covered in a red bikini top. It was Akeno. She had let her long black hair down and was dressed in a red bikini while looking at Itachi seductively. And what about me? Akeno asked and playfully blew into Itachi's ear, making him flinch a little. Akeno, you also look good. Itachi said with a bit of an uncomfortable expression, as not only Akeno was teasing him, but Rias was glaring daggers at Akeno. Akeno, let go. Itachi is mine. Rias said while pouting a little. Ara, Rias, you mustn't be unfair, I want to play with him too. Akeno giggled sadistically. Please stop this. Itachi uttered, and then someone poked his stomach. He looked down and saw it was Konako in a white swimsuit, looking up at him with a pout and a thick mark. Konako, you look really good as well. Itachi assumed Konako wanted him to compliment her as well, although he was then punched in the gut. Pervert. Konako said with a stoic expression as Itachi bent forward slightly from the force of that punch, as Konako was a rook, and her trait was tremendous strength. However, then the younger Nikomata turned around while blushing a little at the fact that Itachi complimented her. Oh, is Chiron a little jealous that all these mature-looking young ladies are grabbing onto Itachi-sama? Kurika appeared and held up her breasts at the mentioning of mature-looking young ladies, causing Konako to pout. Although Kurika loved Konako tremendously, she enjoyed teasing her even more. Ne-sama baka. Konako pouted cutely, causing Kurika to only giggle. As everyone had settled, and Rias along with her peerage, as well as Sana and her peerage and Ciarafal had gone into the water, Itachi was left with Kurika, Jack, and Bob at the beach. Ready? Itachi asked, to which they all nodded, and Itachi summoned forth his familiar that turned into a clone of him. Now, go and play with the others and be careful so that they don't notice. Itachi ordered, to which his clone nodded and walked out into the water with the others, as Itachi and his peerage slipped away. Itachi was standing by the counter of a restaurant. A table for 4 please. Itachi asked the waiter. Very well, please tell your order to our chef here. The waiter said and went to prepare a table. Itachi looked at the chef. He was extremely tall and quite muscular, although Itachi could not see his face as his back was turned to them as he was focused on the grill. We will take 2 of your specialty burgers, 2 bowls of ice cream, 1 big and 1 small. A cup of tea, and 3 sodas. Itachi said. Very well, I shall prepare the 2 of the greatest burgers in the world for you. For I am the greatest chef. The chef said, still with his back turned. His voice was deep and filled with pride. Itachi's sweat dropped a little at the chef's attitude and went to his table with his peerage members. Itachi took a seat in the restaurant with Kurika sitting across from him, Bob in his 23-hour state sitting next to her, and Jack sitting on Itachi's lap while happily kicking her legs back and forth. Will this really work? Your sisters and fiancé have a tendency to tell the difference between you and your clones. Kurika questioned as she looked at her own master. As long as the clone stays a bit far away from them, and doesn't try and stand out too much, they shouldn't notice for a while. Itachi said as he was thinking off a plan to try and find out who Harry Newgate was. So far, the only thing he knew about the man was that he was an elderly person. And looking around, there were plenty of old people here, yet none of them seemed to be anything special in terms of power. So, what's the plan when we find this guy? He might not be willing to join. It's the plan to fight him or something. Bob questioned, considering how he himself was recruited by Itachi, as well as Jack. Hopefully we don't have to fight him, although that is why I asked you to sleep for 23 hours, just in case we had to. Itachi said and tried to think of a plan. But, how are we even going to find him? Kurika was interrupted as some plates with burgers were placed on their table, and a bowl of ice cream for Jack and just a cup of tea for Itachi, as well as a smaller bowl of ice cream. Sorry for the wait. Here is our chef's specialty, the best burgers in the world. The waiter said as he looked at a tall muscular man standing by the grill. Oh, thank you. Kurika thanked the waiter and she and Bob tried the burgers. It's so delicious. I've never tasted anything like this. Naya. Kurika said happily as her body was wiggling in excitement from tasting this delicious burger. I've never had a burger this good. Bob uttered, and in less than a minuet ate his big juicy burger. I need more of this. Bob rushed over to the desk to order another one. Is the ice cream good, Jack? Itachi looked down on his little knight. It's delicious, mommy. Jack beamed as she happily kicked her legs back and forth. I've told you not to call me that in public. Itachi uttered, looking a little pale at being called mommy, although it seemed Jack would never stop calling him that. Anyway, Kurika, what were you about to say earlier? Huh? Oh right. How are we going to find Kurika was once again interrupted as Bob came back with at least 5 new burgers. Seriously? Kurika looked at Bob with a deadpan expression. What? They're good. Bob said as he began eating his new burgers. Anyway, as I was saying. How are we going to find Kurika was once again interrupted by a large noise. What the heck? Naya! Kurika shouted in anger, being interrupted once again. They then heard multiple people scream in horror, as a volcano erupted and the ground began to shake. What the? Bob questioned as he stood up after having finished his third burger. Itachi was ready to act when suddenly, the chef of the restaurant walked past them and faced the magma approaching them. The man was very tall and muscular indeed, almost as muscular as Bob in his current state. He had a white apron around him and baggy pants. He had a big jaw and a black bandana around his head, and he had a thick long white mustache. He held out his arms as the ground began to shake even more, as power was concentrated into his arms, and then the magma went over his feet. A puny little volcano thinks this little warm bath will stop me? Think again. Shock waves then erupted, making the magma split so that it didn't hit any villages or villagers, and the very earth was shaking like it was an earthquake. And most of the magma was directed into the ocean, the rest was blasted away by a shock wave. For I am the mighty Harry Newgate, the very earth trembles before my feet. Think we found him, Naya. Kurika uttered as they witnessed Harry Newgate saving the villages and villagers from the magma. Seriously? The chef? He didn't look old from behind. Bob uttered as they never got a good look at the chef's face until now. Splendid. Excuse me, Mr. Harry Newgate. Itachi approached the old muscular tall man, whom looked down on him with a raised brow. May I talk with you for a bit? Oh? You wish to speak with me? What, amazed by my tremendous power? Harry questioned with quite the prideful tone in his voice. Or perhaps this is about my mighty family name. My name is Itachi Satrai, the next head of the household of Satrai. And I am a devil. Itachi brought out his devil bat wings, as there weren't any civilians near them as all of them had fled the area. I wish for you to become a part of my peerage. In return I shall grant you whatever you wish as long as you pledge your loyalty to me. Harry didn't look that surprised of learning Itachi was a devil. It was like he had dealt with devils before, or it was like it didn't matter to him one bit. Oh, sorry, but I don't pledge to those who are weaker than me. Only to those who have earned my respect gets my loyalty. Harry bent his upper body further down and looked Itachi in the eyes with a condescending glance. Itachi figured something like this might happen, although he wasn't thrilled about it. I see, so if I prove my strength you will join my peerage? Itachi questioned, to which Harry let out a light laughter. Naturally, although devil or not. My strength is still superior. Harry said when suddenly the ground shook from pressure, not from Harry nor Itachi though, whom both looked towards the source. Master Itachi, there is no need for you to get your hands dirty. If he wants to fight you, he has to get through me first. Bob walked up to Harry, being of equal height to him. Oh, why don't you both come at me? That way this will at least be challenging. Harry said in a prideful tone and didn't look the least bit worried. I will make you eat those words, geezer. I am Master Itachi Satrai's pawn, the name's Bob. Bob cracked his knuckles as he stood face to face with Harry. Very well then, brat, I will take you on. However, try not to get overwhelmed or else this fight won't entertain me a bit. Harry said as he felt Bob's power and released his own as a response. Same goes to you, geezer. Bob smirked. Ha ha ha. You are amusing, boy. Harry gave a friendly smile and a small laughter, then suddenly Bob threw a powerful uppercut punch to Harry's jaw. Harry widened his eyes a bit. Bob then threw another powerful punch into Harry's gut, making the giant old man bend forward slightly. Bob then threw a right hook into Harry's face, sending him skidding back. How's that? Bob questioned with a dark, emotionless expression as he cracked his knuckles. A shock wave then suddenly hit Bob from the side, sending him skidding sideways, and then Harry appeared behind him and elbowed him in the back, making the Titan Bob fall to his knees. Not bad, felt like I was stung by a bee. Harry looked down on Bob, not seeming affected by the punches Bob threw at him earlier. He knocked Bob down? And it didn't look like Bob's attacks did anything either. Kurika uttered with wide eyes of shock, and Jack was about to attack but was stopped by Itachi. Bob is still holding back. Itachi said, as Bob got up and threw a powerful uppercut to Harry's jaw, this time spilling blood from the old man. Harry quickly recovered and caught Bob's fist, although the force sent him skidding back a little bit. Not bad for a brat, although this is hardly worth my time, Harry said as a powerful shockwave was blasted into Bob, causing him to back up a bit. Bob gritted his teeth and sent powerful punches with shockwaves into Harry, making the old man back up a bit as well. They are about evenly matched so far, Itachi commented. Evenly matched? Harry questioned at Itachi's words. I haven't even gotten serious yet, Harry said, to which they widened their eyes a bit. Don't tell me that this is all you got. Harry looked at Bob, whom had slightly widened his eyes, although he then looked calm again. Heh, I'm just warming up so far. It's time I got serious. Bob then released his full power, sending powerful gushes of wind as his aura flared up. Rocks began to levitate, and it was like an earthquake had started. Although Harry didn't look worried. Oh, is that all? Harry questioned in a slight bored tone, which caused Bob to widen his eyes a bit that Harry didn't react to this pressure. Then I believe it is my turn to get serious. Harry brought his right hand to his chest, as it looked like his chest was burning from the inside. Suddenly a sword handle popped out from his chest, and he pulled out a massive knight-like, golden sword. Sacred gear, flame sword of pride, activated. Harry uttered as his sword was caught in a blazing inferno of fire that sent such powerful heat that Bob and the others began to sweat. You should feel honored, it is not every day I have to use this. Heh, guess I shall test this new weapon. Bob held his hand out to the side as a magic circle formed. Come forth. Giga Warhammer. Bob summoned forth a massive warhammer into his right hand. Time to test out the weapon given to me by Lord Ajoka Beelzebub. Bob got into a stance with the warhammer. Harry didn't seem to care and simply gathered the flames from his sword to the tip of the blade, forming a sphere of blazing fire. Harry then swung the sword, sending the sphere towards Bob. Bob leaped towards the sphere with his warhammer swung to the side. He gathered a lot of power into his grip, and swung the warhammer into the sphere like it was a baseball. The sphere was then reflected right back at Harry in a powerful fiery explosion. Flashback 1 month ago. After having recruited Jack, Itachi had realized something about his pawn, Bob. Although he had tremendous physical strength, he wasn't that skilled when it came to magic. So, he had taken Bob, whom was in his 8-hour state, to see Ajoka Beelzebub. What seems to be the problem, Itachi? Ajoka asked with a friendly smile. This is my pawn, Bob, he is the one with storage magic. Itachi said, and Ajoka beamed as he was fascinated by Bob's power. Oh, can I experiment on him? Can I? Huh? Can I? Ajoka asked like an excited child. No. Itachi bluntly replied, causing Ajoka to get down in the dumps. I want you to make something for him. You see, Bob, although he has physical strength, doesn't really have any magic talents. I was wondering if you could make something to help him with that. In case we are to deal with an opponent using powerful magical-based attacks, like Satan class level kind of power, Bob would need a way to counter it. Itachi said, as after Bob took that blow from Jack's magical holy sword, he was heavily injured. And if they were to ever encounter an opponent with powerful magical power or holy power, Bob would need a way to counter their attacks. I see your point. Very well, I will see what I can do. Ajoka agreed to Itachi's request. In a matter of few weeks, Itachi was back with Bob, whom was this time even more muscular than last time, as he was in his 23-hour state. Ajoka held in his hands a massive warhammer. This should do it. Ajoka handed it to Bob, whom grabbed it, although he looked a little surprised. This is quite heavy, Bob uttered, although he seemed to be able to lift it with ease. It's designed to be that way, so that no one else besides those who have strength at the level of Satan class can wield it. I assume in your full-powered state you can wield this with one hand. This hammer will help you reflect any magical-based attacks thrown at you. Flashback end. Bob was getting ready to continue his battle with Harry. No matter how many magical-based attacks you throw at me with that sacred gear of yours, my warhammer will simply reflect it, Bob declared, seeming to have the upper hand in this battle. Oh, so that's what happened. No wonder that actually hurt, it was my own attack after all, Harry said, and simply brushed the pain of like nothing happened. You may make good burgers, geezer, but that pride of yours is getting annoying, Bob said as he held the hammer over his right shoulder. Why shouldn't I have pride? I am a Newgate after all, I have the right to be prideful for my great family name, Harry said as he released even more pressure and flames from his sword than ever before. Flame Sword of Pride. I recall the name, but I'm not sure of its abilities, Itachi uttered as he, Kurika and Jack were flying above them with devil batwings on their backs. So far it seems it creates violent flames, Kurika said as they both tried to figure out that sword's abilities. My sword is very special. It is on par with the 13 long Inus thanks to me. The former owners never managed to draw out this sword's full power. However, that's where I am different. My pride is greater than anyone else's, I can draw out this sword's full power whenever I want to. So, I made it into a long Inus, Harry declared, and Bob looked confused as he doesn't know what the 13 long Inus even are. And why is that supposed to amaze me? Bob questioned with a raised brow. You got a nice toy, so what? You will need more than that to beat me. Foolish boy, the first original 13 long Inus were made by God of the Bible. These tools were said to be able to destroy God, and were the mightiest among all sacred gears. However, with the way sacred gears evolve, it is possible for new long Inus to be made, precisely what I have done to my own. So, this weapon can kill God's boy. That's why you should be amazed at my power, Harry declared as the flames around him increased even more, to which Bob, Itachi, Kurika, and Jack began to sweat from this tremendous heat. He seems to know a lot for a human. Naya, Kurika said as it was only a select few humans whom had knowledge like this. Is he one of those select few? How do you know all that, geezer? Bob questioned, thinking only supernatural beings would know this. With age comes wisdom, boy. And I have met many people over the years. Fallen angels, and devils. This is nothing new to me, Harry replied. Itachi looked amazed, his eyes were wide, as with what Harry has been talking about made him remember Harry's sacred gear. I see, so that's how it is, Itachi said, much to Kurika and Jack's confusion. The Flame Sword of Pride. As it suggests, pride is a crucial part of this sacred gear, for the more pride the wielder has, the stronger he becomes and the more power he can pull out from the sword in the form of flames. I can already feel it, and see it, he has grown stronger than Bob already, Itachi explained, making Kurika widen her eyes in shock. You have surpassed me, huh? Bob questioned as his face darkened. Naturally, Harry huffed with pride. Hey Master Itachi? This counts as enemy territory now, right? Bob asked, to which Itachi realized what Bob meant. Yes, I acknowledge this as enemy territory, Bob, Itachi declared, and then Bob let out a powerful blue glow. Promotion, Rook, Bob uttered, and the glow increased. He then leaped at Harry with his fist raised. Pointless, Harry uttered, and was about to block the punch, when suddenly Bob used his other hand with the warhammer, to push Harry's arm to the side with such brute force that Harry was caught off guard. And Bob then punched him in the gut, making Harry widen his eyes and vomit out a little blood. What the? Harry uttered and suddenly fell over. Guess you still don't know everything, Hageezer? As a pawn I can use promotion to promote into other pieces except for the king. And my power increases. Bob slammed his right fist into his left palm. And my strength is now way bigger than before. Bob slammed his fist towards Harry, when suddenly the ground beneath him flipped over and Bob was sent crashing to the hole where the ground used to be, with the piece of the ground slammed onto him. Not only do I have the power of my sacred gear, but also the power of my great-grandfather, Edward Newgate, whom was once known as the Pirate Whitebeard. Harry declared as he got back up, wiping the blood stain from his mouth. Although it seems I must acknowledge, you are indeed strong. That is, if you are not counting me. Promotion Queen. Bob charged out from the ground and punched Harry across the face. This is my full power. In this state I am already at mid-Satan class. Bob cracked his knuckles. Even I must admit, in that state, Bob is stronger than me. Itachi said, as indeed in terms of brute power Bob did surpass him when he used promotion. Although Itachi still knew he had ways to beat him. Is that so? Well. Harry said as the flames burned twice as much than before. It looked like a flame samurai armor had formed around his body. And the heat was immense as well as the pure pressure of power. In this state, I am also Satan class, well, high Satan class, that is. Balance breaker, flames of pride. And no way, this is unreal. Kurika uttered as her body was shaking. The old man is strong. Jack uttered with wide eyes of awe. He is almost as strong as Nay-san. Itachi uttered with a less surprised expression than Kurika as he narrowed his Sharingan at this Harry Newgate. Bob's eyes were widened, his body trembling a little, although he wasn't about to give up. I don't give a damn. Bob declared, flaring his aura up even more. He pulled his arm behind his back with his palm directed at Harry. Around Bob's palm was a massive aura of power ready to be thrown at Harry. Harry narrowed his gaze at Bob, and then from the corner of his eye, looked over to a village not far from them. This is a waste of my time. Harry declared as he deactivated his balance breaker and his sword vanished into flames. You wouldn't provide me with amusement. Harry declared and walked away, leaving a confused Bob. Like I said, I am not pledging my loyalty to those I don't respect. Go home, children. Harry said and walked away. Are you really going to let him go? Naya? Kurika asked Itachi, whom just looked at Harry walking away. I don't intend to force anyone to join. However, I will still try. Itachi replied as he wasn't about to give up yet. He knew that Harry ended the fight so that he wouldn't endanger the village of this island. Itachi then flew down in front of Harry to try and convince him. I must ask you to please reconsider. Itachi said, although Harry just walked past him. Even if you join my peerage I will still let you do whatever you wish, and you will be considered family as well. Itachi said, causing Harry to stop. I already told you, I won't serve anyone who I don't respect. Go home, boy. Harry said in a deep tone and walked away and back to the restaurant, where the waiter greeted him with a friendly smile, seeming not to be unfamiliar with the supernatural either. It 10. Itachi heard his older sister's voice and turned around to see an angry Sirafal, Sana, Rias, Akeno, and Konako. All of them having most likely discovered the Itachi they were with was a clone, and felt the tremors of Bob and Harry's little battle. How dare you use a clone to try and trick us? We are supposed to be on vacation. Sirafal scolded. Yeah, what are you doing anyway? Don't tell me you are trying to get some alone time with Kurika. Ria scolded as she mostly seemed to notice the older Nikomata standing next to Itachi at the moment. No, my entire peerage is here as well. Itachi was about to explain, although he was interrupted. Why didn't you come and play with us? Why did you suddenly leave? What are you hiding? Rias interrogated along with the other girls as they all leaned in closer, eager for an answer. Well, I'm sorry, but something came up, and I had to attend to it. Itachi tried to explain, although it didn't seem to be working. Oni-sama. Tell us right now. Sana said with a demanding glare, causing Itachi to sweat a little nervously. Fine, fine, I will tell you. Itachi sighed in defeat, and at the restaurant Harry looked at this with a raised brow. After a long time explaining, Itachi was on his knees in front of the girls, while his peerage members stood around him. So, bottom line, Oni-sama misunderstood and you came here to try and recruit a peerage member? Sana questioned with an ice-cold stare. Yes. Itachi replied with a stoic face. So, a vacation for all of us wasn't something you had planned for? Sana asked again with the murderous glare. Yes. Itachi replied, starting to look a little nervous. And you wanting to invite me, was just so Sirafal wouldn't question how you almost pointed out her misunderstanding, so that she wouldn't throw a fit? Rias asked also with a murderous glare, and a slight look of disappointment. Why yes. Itachi replied, looking slightly more nervous, while Sirafal struggled to hold back her tears of sadness. I'm a big girl at 10, I wouldn't throw a fit over that. Sirafal uttered while trying to hold back her tears, while everyone looked at her with doubt in those words. Look, I'm sorry it turned out like this, okay. Besides, we all are here now. Might as well make the best out of it, and make it into a real vacation this time. Itachi said, to which the girls were still glaring at him, although they all went normal and let out sighs. Fine, I guess. Sana uttered, accepting Itachi's apology. On the condition that you actually hang out with us, and not make some clone. Yes, of course. Itachi replied with a warm brotherly smile. How about you help me learn how to swim? Akeno asked with a small giggle, that made it even more suspicious. Sure, no problem. Itachi agreed. Buy me snacks. Konako said with stars in her eyes. All right, you got it? Itachi smiled at the young Nikomata. You will do one favor I ask of you, and you cannot say no. Rias said, which sounded suspicious to Itachi and the others, although Itachi couldn't exactly deny it now. Very well. Itachi agreed, thinking it couldn't be something too bad. You will let me explore every part of your body. Sirafal beamed while holding a camera. No way. Itachi bluntly replied, causing Sirafal to pout. It tan no fair. Sirafal whined like a little child being denied candy or a toy. Meanwhile, Harry looked over at them from the restaurant. Guess that kid isn't too bad after all. Harry thought with a small inwardly smile. Something on your mind, Harry? The waiter questioned with a friendly smile, although the two were about the same age, the waiter looked way older. Yeah, no problem, Jim. Let's get back to work. Harry replied and went back to his grill. The radars show that it's moving closer to this island like we predicted, by the way. It will be here soon. The waiter known as Jim said with a serious expression. No need for worry. For no one can match my might. Harry declared. As always, you are so filled with pride. Jim smiled friendly at Harry. Itachi was in the middle of teaching Akeno how to swim, although strangely it seemed she was already quite skilled at it. Itachi held her by the arms and moved backwards as Akeno kicked her legs in the water and swam. Okay, 1 2, 1 2. Itachi chanted while Akeno looked at him with a smile of admiration. Then suddenly Akeno pretended to fall over and wrapped her arms around Itachi, pushing her breasts up against his chest. Kia. That was scary. Akeno said jokingly, which Itachi did not miss. Okay, what are you playing at? Itachi questioned with a stoic expression. Akeno looked up at him with an innocent look. Aira, whatever do you mean? You seem to be able to swim just fine, and that fake scream of yours just now made it even more obvious. Itachi pointed out, to which Akeno smiled and tightened her embrace as her gigantic soft boobs pressed up against his chest even more. This way, we're finally alone. Akeno smiled seductively and gently stroked her hand on his cheek. You know, Itachi, you are just so manly and strong that I can't help myself anymore. Akeno said and undid the knot on the top of her bikini as she was now pushing her bare chest up against his. And despite knowing what I am, and where I come from, you accept me. That just makes me want you even more. Akeno leaned in closer. Itachi really didn't want to touch upon this subject with any of them really. Listen, Akeno. Itachi stopped mid-sentence as Akeno started nibbling on his right ear. What? Aren't you interested in me? Or attracted to me? Akeno blew into his ear, making his body flinch slightly. How cute. Akeno giggled at Itachi's reaction. Itachi then lightly pushed her back. No, it's not any of that. Just please stop teasing me. Itachi said with a stoic, unreadable expression, to which Akeno giggled. Seems you don't need any more practice, let's head back. Itachi said, to which Akeno giggled once again and followed him back to shore. Itachi then went with Konako, and bought her a barrel's worth of sweets, much to the young Nekomate's joy. As they were walking back, Konako looked a little embarrassed. I'm sorry, for punching you earlier. Konako uttered with a faint blush. Itachi gave her a friendly smile. It's fine, don't worry about it. It did sting, but it didn't hurt that much after all. Itachi then petted the top of her head, to which Konako purred like a kitten. She then quickly turned away from Itachi, with a slight bigger blush for reacting like that. Baka. Konako uttered with the blush growing. Itachi gave a light chuckle to Konako's reaction. I'm sorry. Hey, Itachi, does Ne-sama do dirty things with you? Konako asked, which caused Itachi to almost fall over. Define dirty things. Itachi said. Well, like, letting you touch her, and stuff, and letting you see her and naked and stuff, and sex. Konako uttered with a slight embarrassed looking expression. Well, true, Itachi has seen Kurika naked a couple of times. Mostly because when he wakes up she is usually sleeping naked next to him, and she has insisted on him doing those kinds of things, and she has hugged his face between her breasts a lot. And if he had asked she would have let him do anything to her, not that he has. Well, I'm sure you know your sister, so you should already know the answer, although we have not had sex. Itachi replied, to which Konako actually looked slightly relieved. I see. Konako uttered while hiding her smile, and then she brought out her white cattail and ears, and wrapped her tail around Itachi's hand. Itachi widened his eyes a bit, and then smiled as they walked back. Once they got back, Konako remained to herself, her face a little red, and she sat in a corner alone, while Kurika looked curious as to what happened with her adorable little sister. Then it was Ria's turn. Ria laid on her stomach on a towel and held out a bottle of sunscreen, with her bikini top unhooked. Rub some on me, would you? Ria asked with a seductive look. She has grown way more aggressive since she entered her teens. Understood. Itachi gave his word and knew he couldn't back out from this. He just sighed and decided to get this over with. He put some lotion on his hand and rubbed it on Ria's back, who moaned a little from how cold it felt. Which caused Itachi to twitch his eyes a little, as people began to stare. Itachi kept rubbing the lotion on, and Ria let out small muffles of moan. Ah, there, oh, Itachi, ahn. Ria tried to soften her muffles and moans, and Itachi twitched his eyes a little more. You are doing that on purpose, aren't you? Itachi questioned, to which Ria playfully stuck out her tongue. I knew it. That first moan was real though. Ria said with a faint blush and a seductive smile. Itachi didn't respond and just got it over with, despite the moans coming from Ria, and the stares people gave him. He then went on to play with them in the water, and spending some time with them, and he had an honest happy smile on his face. Which did not go unnoticed by a certain chef whom happened to look in their direction. HMPF. Harry went back to his grill and focused on making his great burgers. Ah, this is fun. Oni-chan will go and buy some ice, okay. Sirafal said and ran off. This turned out to be fun. Kurika said while floating on a floating ring. Shame we couldn't recruit Harry though. Bob said as he was back in his 0-hour state, and floating around on his back. And Jack was floating behind them with a floating ring, with a stoic expression. Oni-sama, catch. Sana threw a beach ball towards Itachi, whom got ready to hit it. I got it. Itachi replied with a smile, that soon vanished when he heard a roar of some kind. They all stopped as the waves in the water increased bit by bit, then suddenly a massive beast emerged from the water. A gigantic creature that resembled an octopus, with 10 long tentacles fang arms. What is that? Sana questioned, looking a little taken aback by this creature's size. The Kraken. The voice of Harry Newgate replied as he walked up to them and the creature, with Jim standing on the beach holding a machine gun. We have been tracking this monster for almost a year now. Harry released an immense amount of pressure, as it felt like an earthquake. The Kraken rose one its massive tentacles and swung it down upon the village, although then the arm was burned to a crisp as Harry held out his sacred gear, and shot a ball of fire at the beast. What is going on? Itachi questioned. This is the reason Harry and I came here. Jim was the one to reply, and Itachi turned around to face the waiter. You see, I have known Harry here since the Second World War. We fought together side by side, then on D-Day something awoke within Harry. He used that sword to save us from enemy soldiers that had cornered us. That was the very first time I had ever seen anything like that. He then went on and told me about his family's history, and what he planned to do next. He wanted to keep order within the world, just like his great-grandfather once did. And I had nowhere else to go after the war, so I decided to join him on his journey. We have been traveling the world for years now, taking down monsters that threaten the order of the world. Jim explained, and Itachi then looked back at Harry, whom was fighting off this gigantic monster. Why are you telling me this? Itachi questioned with a raised brow at the man. I'm an old man now, and even though Harry and I are the same age, he is in much better shape than I am. Harry doesn't want to quit with his quest, and I don't want him to go through this journey alone. And sooner or later I won't be able to keep up, but then you came. You offered to be his comrade, and family, didn't you? Jim smiled warmly at Itachi. He can be very prideful, and stubborn, but I ask you, please don't give up on him. Itachi widened his eyes, and looked at the Kraken. He then brought out his devil bat wings and flew off into battle. Kurika, make sure the civilians are safe. I will help take care of this monster. Itachi ordered his queen, whom nodded, and went with Rias and Sana, and their peerage members to help out the civilians. I don't need any help. Harry said, and easily cut off one of the Kraken's tentacles, making it shriek in pain. My family is here, and I won't let this beast harm them. So, even if you don't ask for help, I will give it. Itachi replied, causing Harry to widen his eyes a bit and to smile a bit. This Kraken monster is at least high ultimate class level. Rias and Sana are both low high class level and wouldn't be able to do much against the Kraken. Bob is in his weakest state now, so he can't do anything. Kurika is low ultimate class level at this point. Jack, being slightly stronger than Kurika, might be able to help. Although, Itachi decided to deal with this himself along with Harry. The Kraken then spitted out a wave of ink at Itachi, whom froze the wave in solid ice. Itachi then directed his palm at the Kraken, and blasted it in the eye with a fire shot, making it shriek in pain, as its eye burned away. The Kraken swung one of its massive tentacles down on Itachi, whom let out his Toki aura, and easily caught the tentacle without any difficulty. Itachi leaped at the Kraken and threw a powerful punch into its head, making it back away. HOH, not bad, boy. Although we don't have time to play around with it. Harry complimented Itachi and let out a massive amount of flames around his body. Harry slammed his left palm forward, sending a powerful wave of fire, that was so hot the very ocean beneath the Kraken began to boil. How disappointing. And here I thought the notorious Kraken would be able to at least entertain me. It 10. So 10. I brought back the ice. Sirafal arrived, holding 3 ice cones. Sirafal seemed oblivious to the situation and completely ignored the Kraken's presence. Nay-san. Itachi uttered with a sweat drop that Sirafal completely ignored the beast. Oh. There you are at 10. Annie. Come down here and let's eat. Sirafal cheered happily and still ignoring the Kraken, that let out a roar. Huh? What's that? Sirafal tilted her head to the side, only noticing the Kraken first now, and even Harry was taken aback at this. It's the Kraken, it's attacking the island. Itachi replied. Oh, I see. So, anyway. Which flavor do you want? Strawberry, chocolate, or vanilla? Sirafal turned her attention back to her little brother. This is hardly the time for this. Itachi uttered. Come on this way everyone. Sana helped a group of locals to find a safe path to run away from the Kraken. Oh. There you are so 10. Which flavor do you want? Sirafal asked, although then the Kraken swung one of its tentacles towards Sana. Sana! Look out! Itachi shouted with horror. Then suddenly the tentacle froze and shattered into pieces, causing the Kraken to shriek in pain. You tried to hurt my Sotan just now. Sirafal uttered with her bangs covering her eyes. Unforgivable. Sirafal sent the Kraken an ice-cold death glare, and raised her right hand, and merely flicked her fingers. And in an instant the Kraken was frozen in a massive chunk of ice, and then it shattered into pieces. That's Nay-san for you, just as powerful as she is overprotective. Itachi uttered with a sweat drop, while Harry had slight wide eyes of shock. Okay everyone. Let's get back to our vacation. Sirafal cheered happily as she went over to Sana. Itachi smiled warmly at seeing that everyone was safe. Hey, kid. Harry spoke, which gained Itachi's attention. You got a nice family there. Yeah, I know. Itachi flew down and stood next to Harry. My offer still stands, you know. Itachi said. Although you might have gained some respect from me. I still refuse. Harry was interrupted mid-sentence by his good old friend Jim. Just accept his offer, Harry. Jim walked over to them. Jim. Harry looked over at his old friend with a confusing look. I'm retiring, old friend. So, I am sorry but I won't be able to aid you anymore. However, this young man can help you with your quest. Jim looked over at Itachi with a warm smile. What do you mean? Why retire? Harry questioned. We're not getting any younger, Harry, even though you may be in good shape. I'm nearing my deathbed here. I've had enough with all this running and fighting. I just want to live what I have left in peace. But I won't be able to unless I know you got someone to back you up. Jim replied. Nonsense, Jim, with my might I don't need any backup. And you still got a few good years on you. Harry insisted, to which Jim let out a light chuckle. Sorry, Harry, but this is the end of our journey. Time for you to start a new chapter, with new comrades. Jim said as he looked over to Itachi, and Itachi's family and friends on the beach. I will take my leave now. Jim turned around and started walking away. Farewell, old friend. And may we meet again. Harry said, to which Jim gave him one last smile and wave. Itachi watched as the old war comrades parted ways, and then he looked over at Harry. You said you have started to respect me a little. Tell me, what made you gain respect for me? Itachi questioned, as earlier Harry declared he had no reason to respect him to stay loyal to him. What changed? We would have to go way back for that. Harry said and let out a deep sigh. It all started when I was a kid. Flashback. I grew up in a poor family. We were viewed as a disgrace since we stemmed from a pirate known as Whitebeard. Growing up I had nothing. A little boy in ragged up clothes walked the streets, his face was filled with sorrow and his stomach was growling. Nothing except for my family. The boy was then lifted up by a young man whom looked at him with a warm smile. My father, despite our situation, found whatever work he could to feed me and mother. Sometimes he would not come home for days, weeks, even months. To this day I remember, my father never stopped smiling, even when people talked about him behind his back. The little young Harry was crying in the corner of his bed after having been picked on by other kids. Then his father sat down next to him. My father used to tell me stories about my great-grandfather Edward Newgate, the man whom was known as Whitebeard. And what he told me, was that despite being a pirate, my great-grandfather cared for family the most. He treated his entire crew like his own children and viewed them as such. He was an honorable man, and he was very powerful, so powerful he was once called the strongest man alive and kept the other pirates in check. I looked up to my great-grandfather and wanted to be just like him as a kid. After that I started thinking that nothing was more important than family. As time went on, war suddenly came. But then, World War II began, and in a bombing of my hometown, one lost my parents. I was angry at having lost what I cared about the most, and a few years later I joined the army. The image changed into a beach, that was a battlefield, bodies scattered across the beach, gunfire being heard as well as explosions. And standing in a cornered by the enemy, was a young Harry Newgate and a young Jim. At that moment I thought back on my great-grandfather. And from the bottom of my heart wished for just some of the power that he had. And that's when it happened. A glow came from the young Harry Newgate's chest and out came a sword that released a powerful amount of flames. I felt the power, and I was proud, yes, proud of my family name, our strength. And I easily vanquished the enemy. The young Harry swung the blade sending a powerful, blazing wave of fire that burnt away the enemy soldiers. After the war was over, I went back to my family home, to see if I could find out more about my great-grandfather and my newly discovered power. A young Harry dressed in an army uniform walked down to the basement of his ruined childhood home. He looked around old family books but couldn't find anything, then suddenly in frustration he threw the bookshelf to the side and saw a secret door. With curiosity he opened the door and what he found was a small chest with a note. The note said, "This was the source of my great-grandfather's strength and power." And when I opened the chest I saw what looked like a piece of a fruit. That's when I had my first encounter with a supernatural being. That is rare sight, a devil fruit, well a piece of one anyway. Never thought I would see that again. A man stood in the doorway looking at the young Harry Newgate, the shades covered his face and all that was seen was his smirk and a dark goatee on his chin, as well as black crow feathered wings sticking out from his back. He was a fallen angel. He told me about my sword, and how it was a sacred gear and how it worked. He also told me about the devil fruits, how this was all that was left of them. And that back in the pirate ages they were very well known. They were creations of the current Muajuka Beelzebub in an attempt to create his own version of sacred gears to tip the scales in the war between the three factions, although they fell into human hands. And after the pirate ages they were all destroyed besides this one piece that was once used by Whitebeard, my great-grandfather. Naturally, seeing as it was a part of my family, I ate it, although according to that fallen angel, since it was only a piece I could only use a fraction of the fruit's power. But my sacred gear made up for that. But this fruit piece made me feel closer to my family, especially to my great-grandfather. I would keep the pride and the honor of my family going, that is what I live for. Flashback end. Itachi now could understand what Harry was like. He was a man who respected family, and seeing how Itachi loved and wanted to protect his family, must have been what made Harry gain some respect for him. I see. I will offer you this one more time. Itachi held out his hand in a friendly manner. My name is Itachi Satrai, my dream is to become the strongest there is and bring peace to the world. Would you like to become a part of my peerage and family? Harry widened his eyes a bit at hearing Itachi's dream. He looked down on Itachi's hand. Harry remembered back on his parents, Jim, and the stories he had heard about his great-grandfather. He then looked at Itachi, whom still held out his hand, and behind him stood the rest of the Satrai family, as well as Itachi's friends. HMPF, very well. I shall grant you the honor of having someone like me in your family. And I shall lend you my great strength. Although, don't think you can start ordering me around. Also, that dream will remain a dream. After all, I will remain the strongest. Harry looked down on Itachi with a lot of pride in his voice. Itachi let out a light chuckle and gave him a friendly smile. Understood. I think this piece would suit you well. Itachi brought out a chessboard and had a rook piece float up to Harry's chest, although nothing happened. Itachi raised his brow and tried with the second rook, and they both glowed, and to the young Satrai's surprise they let out a glow and mutated, and then they entered Harry's body. Itachi returned to his normal expression, and looked up at Harry with a friendly smile. Welcome to the Satrai household, Harry Newgate. HN. Harry gave a small nod with a smirk on his face. Itachi then walked back towards the others and Harry followed. Thank you. Harry uttered in a whisper tone so that Itachi didn't hear him. Everyone, I would like to introduce my new rook, Harry Newgate. Itachi introduced Harry to the others, and Harry gave them a small nod. Hello, welcome to our household. Sana greeted Harry warmly. Welcome. Sirafal beamed. It's a pleasure to have you a part of our household. Lord Satrai said, to which Lady Satrai agreed. Hey there, I am Itachi's fiancée, Rias Gremory, and this is my peerage, Akeno Jima, my queen, and my rook Konako Tujao. Rias introduced herself and her peerage with a warm and friendly smile. Greetings. Harry bowed and then looked down on the short petite Bob. Who is this? I am Bob, the one you fought earlier. Bob replied, looking a little nervous, and for a moment it looked like Harry's jaw was about to hit the ground. What? Harry questioned in slight shock. I will explain later. Itachi said. Anyway, how about I prep some food for us? Time for you all to taste the greatest burgers in the world. Harry proudly declared, and the rest of the vacation continued with Harry having joined the Satrai family. In the dark night sky, the full moon shined upon a city, and the moonlight reflected on broken pieces of glass in a penthouse. The sound of footprints stepping on the glass making a cracking noise echoed through the hall. Drops of blood dripped from the ceiling. A lone figure sat on a chair while brewing tea. He added a bit of honey and milk before stirring the tea with a spoon. Gently he tapped the spoon on the teacup, put it down and took a sip. Ah, nothing like a good cup of tea after a hard day of work. The voice was slight, deep and masculine. He leaned back on his chair while looking up. Up in the ceiling were 50 dead bodies hung around with very thin strings digging through their flesh. The strings were barely visible thanks to the moonlight shining on them. Dead bodyguards, check. Dead drug lord, check. Delicious tea. The man took a sip from his teacup. Check. Mission complete. The man laid back and admired his own handiwork. As the man let out a relaxed sigh, something in his pocket started to ring. Now what? The man reached into his pocket and brought out a little device similar to a cell phone. He pressed a button and up came an image. A new target. The man put on a pair of glasses and inspected the details. Shit, this kid can't be more than 15 years old, and someone wants me to kill him. What's this? He straightened his glasses to be sure he read a part right. A devil? This kid is a high-class devil. Is this some kind of prank? There is no way devils are real. The man browsed through the details of the mission, and found another picture of the target, this time with giant bat-like wings sticking out from his back. No freaking way. According to my device, this picture hasn't been tampered with. The man looked amazed at this discovery. He regained his composure. The request is anonymous, but damn, that's a lot of cash. The man smirked as he looked at the number on the reward. Okay then, Itachi, you are now my target. The man twitched his right index finger, as the bodies on the ceiling got torn to pieces, and the strings flew down around him along with the body parts. It appeared as the strings were attached to this man's fingertips. He walked out to the broken window as the moonlight shined upon him. He had dark brown slicked back hair, and was cleanly shaved. He was dressed in a black butler outfit and he wore white gloves, his glasses reflected from the moonlight and over his dark brown eyes. How do I even get to hell to find him? Oh, wait, it says on the information he sometimes visits the human world, Japan mostly. Guess I'm going to the land of the rising sun. Maybe I will stop by one of those maid cafes, that sounds fun. The man said with a small chuckle as he leaped out from the penthouse. The next day, underworld, Citri Castle. A tremor was felt all around the Citri Castle. Sitting in his office was Lord Citri taking a sip of coffee, while the chandelier over him was shaking in rhythm with the room. Books fell out from the bookshelf, his lamp fell to the ground and broke. Yet Lord Citri didn't seem bothered, he just sat there while going over some documents. Oh, that was close. Lord Citri tapped his finger onto the desk as a drop of water expanded and caught the chandelier before it fell over him, and gently placed it on the floor in front of his desk. Now then, where was I? Ah yes. I need to schedule my next drinking party with Lord Gremory. The document was filled with lists of drinks they would drink, party games they would play, and a chart over territory that wouldn't matter much if he lost to Lord Gremory in a betting game. A knock was heard on the door, and before Lord Citri could respond, his wife Lady Citri walked in. Dear, why is the chandelier on the floor? Lady Citri asked with a deadpan expression. Huh? Oh, it fell from all this shaking. Lord Citri replied, to which Lady Citri just looked even more annoyed at her husband. Dear, don't tell me you forgot to put a defensive barrier around the castle. Lady Citri asked, to which Lord Citri grew silent while taking a long sip from his coffee, as drops of sweat started to fall from his face. You did, didn't you? Lady Citri gave a cold glare to her husband which made him pale a little. Maybe. Lord Citri nervously replied and swung his finger as magic circles expanded around him and around the room, and expanded further around the castle, and the shaking stopped. Lady Citri let out a sigh while rubbing her temple. Honestly, it almost seems as you want our castle to crumble to the ground. Lady Citri uttered in disappointment. I just forgot, darling, my sweet honey, my sexy little devil mistress. Lord Citri was blasted to the ground by a wave of magic power from his wife, leaving his twitching body on the floor, while his wife glared at him while blushing madly. I told you not to call me that. Lady Citri shouted while trying to regain her composure and getting over her embarrassment. She was mostly embarrassed at herself. That after a few hundred years of being married to Lord Citri she still felt embarrassed of him talking dirty to her. Although Lord Citri just found that side of her adorable. As I was going to say, I was busy with some important documents. Lord Citri casually hid away his plans of a drinking party with Lord Gremory behind his back, yet that did not escape his wife's glance. She glared at his right arm that was holding said documents behind his back. She then looked over to his suspicious-looking face. And what might be the content of these documents? A nice lady wanted to open a bakery in our territory and, this is all for planning. Lord Citri avoided eye contact with his wife as he hoped she wouldn't notice his lie. He knew more than anything that his wife hated it when he got drunk with Lord Gremory, and how they would bet parts of their territory in their games. And since he was the face of the Satrai household, and was supposed to be good role model for his children, she couldn't let him look like a fool. Unfortunate for him, Lady Satrai knew that whenever he lied or tried to hide something, he would avoid eye contact. "Oh? Then you wouldn't mind if I took a look?" Lady Satrai walked towards her husband, whom tried to hide behind the fallen chandelier, that instantly flew back up into the ceiling and reattached itself. The broken lamp repaired itself and flew back up on his desk. The books flew back into the shelf. Lady Satrai used her magic power to fix the room. Well. She had a dangerous look as she walked closer to her husband, whom was backing up against his desk. Well, this isn't something you should worry about, darling, I got it covered. I swear. Lord Satrai looked like a frightened dog having done something bad, and was being scolded by its owner. Lady Satrai responded with a mere cold glare, that brought shivers down her husband's spine. "Give it," she ordered with her right hand stretched out. "Why, yes, ma'am." Lord Satrai gave up. He started trembling in fear as his wife read the document. He looked even more terrified when she lifted her face up from the document and smiled. "Have mercy." After a few moments of scolding her husband, Lady Satrai let out a sigh while a censored pile that was Lord Satrai laid in the background. "You know how I feel about you betting our territories. It makes you seem unprofessional. Didn't think it would matter, seeing as Itachi and Rias are engaged and all." The censored pile that was Lord Satrai uttered, as his son and Lord Gremory's daughter were engaged, and that would mean it wouldn't matter if they lost a bit of their territory, is what both these lords were thinking. Do you remember what he said? Itachi is only doing this so that Rias-chan won't have to marry that Razor Phoenix, and that after that she is free to choose whom she wishes to be with. Lady Satrai pointed out the fault in her husband's argument. True, but seeing as our son is the one she wants to marry, I would imagine it only being a matter of time before they both started to like each other. I mean, he clearly has a soft spot for her. Lord Satrai smirked, and Lady Satrai couldn't help but agree. Itachi never was very social, and yet Rias had managed to find a way to get close to him, and become as precious to him as Sana and Sirafal. Speaking of Itachi, he sure has gathered strong peerage members. Lady Satrai looked down as they heard what sounded like explosions coming from the lower training area. To think they can cause this kind of ruckus from a mere training session. The tremors from before seemed to have been Itachi and his peerage undergoing training. Meanwhile, down in the training room, an army of fallen angels simulations flew towards a 15-year-old Itachi and his 4 peerage members, Kurika, Bob, whom was in his 23-hour state, Jack, and Harry. Formation B. Itachi instructed and his peerage members moved in separate directions besides Bob, whom brought his hand behind his back, gathering up a lot of strength. Kurika and Harry flew up in front of the fallen angels, Kurika blasting a barrage volley of blue fire, while the old man Harry summoned forth his flame sword of pride and gave it a swing, sending a slice wave of blazing fire. Jack flew over the angels, gathering as much power as she could. This wasn't a part of the formation, Naya. Kurika pointed out to Harry. If your aim was better, Kitty, perhaps I wouldn't have needed to interfere. Harry replied. Rebellion. Jack summoned forth at least 100 different kinds of swords and sent them flying down onto the fallen angels, taking a bunch of them out. Jack then fell into Harry's arm, looking exhausted from having used too much power. A group of 30 fallen angel simulations attacked them, and then suddenly froze into blocks of ice, that shattered into pieces along with them. As Itachi flew behind them with his arms stretched forward with magic circles formed on his palms. Scatter! Itachi ordered as they flew to the side, leaving the remaining in the pathway of Bob, and Harry, whom flew next to Bob, forming a massive sphere of fire from the tip of his sword. And Itachi landed between them, directing his palm at the remaining simulations, forming a massive magic circle. Bob swung his arm forward, sending a massive shockwave of pure power. Harry blasted the fire sphere into the mix, incinerating most of them, leaving a few left that were taken down by a gigantic dragon made out of water from Itachi. Simulation level 100, complete, well done. That was an army of fallen angels. I'm not impressed. Harry boasted with pride in his tone as his sword vanished. Well, they were at low, mid, and high class level, and there were 3,000 of them. Bob said, and then suddenly shrunk into his normal self, as 1 hour had passed. I think that's enough training for today. Bob rubbed his eyes, while letting out a yawn. Did we do good? Jack jumped onto Itachi, holding onto him like a monkey. You all did well. Itachi smiled and petted the top of Jack's head. Although all of us still have some things to work on, like your stamina for example. Itachi said to Jack and then looked out on everyone else. Kurika, you need to work on your aim, some of those fireballs missed. Bob, you need to gather your energy faster. And Harry, you need to learn to rely on others more, you are not alone out there. And what of you? Harry looked down on Itachi. That last attack wasn't exactly timed with ours. That is true, I also need to work on our formations and time my attacks right, no one is perfect and that includes you and me. Itachi had been used to formations that required less people, during his Umbu days he only had 2 subordinates, and during his Akatsuki days he only had 1 partner. Then again, back in those days there were cases of Itachi preferring to do things by himself rather than rely on help from others. A fault he has steadily learned to correct, a fault Harry needs to work on. Well, time to hit the showers, Naya. Want me to accompany you, Itachi-sama? Kurika hugged Itachi's right arm between her breasts while giving him a seductive look, yet Itachi showed no special reaction, he only gave her a polite smile, he was sadly used to this by now. No thank you Kurika, you should just go with Jack, the 3 of us will go later. Itachi turned down the offer, and Kurika responded with a cute pout. Come on then Jack-chan. Kurika called the little girl that was still latched onto Itachi. We want to go with Mama. Jack replied bluntly. Jack, go with Kurika. Itachi quickly turned down Jack's hopes, causing her to pout, and finally gave up as she went with Kurika. Once the 3 male members of the peerage were alone, Bob decided to change the topic. So, are you excited to check out the high school you will be attending next year? Later today Itachi had planned with Sana, Rias, and Akeno to check out Kyoa Academy as they would be starting there next year. Should I? Itachi questioned with a raised brow, he didn't see what there was to be excited about, it was just school. Sana, Rias, and Akeno sure are. By the way, you haven't seen her or the others for a few weeks now, right? You must look forward to seeing them again, I'm sure they feel the same also. It was true, due to Itachi's training schedule, Rias looking for new peerage members with Sana. He has barely had time with either of them, well he had at least been with Sana from time to time during these few weeks. But that is mostly because they are siblings and live together. It will be good to be reunited with them again. I wonder what kind of new peerage members they have picked up. Itachi replied with a little smile, he especially thought of Rias, Akeno, and Konako. He wondered if they were doing all right. Will it be strange for you? Seeing as you will be the very first male student to attend Kyoa Academy. Bob decided to change the topic. Well, I did grow up with only my 2 sisters around, plus Rias. I assume it wouldn't be any different. Itachi replied, not really seeming that interested, the only reason he is attending is because both Rias and Sana wished for him to. Although, if it will be like the Ninja Academy. I kind of fear the potential fangirls. Itachi thought as a shiver ran down his spine at the memories. If I didn't know any better, I would say you look frightened. Harry smiled a little out of amusement as he noticed Itachi shivering for a second there. The only question I have is what the rest of us will be doing. I mean Bob and I are too old for high school, well Bob could pass off for a high school student if he stayed a shrimp. Harry looked down on Bob, whom looked unamused of being called shrimp, yet he was too nervous to give a reply to the comment. Well, Kurika will most likely attend a year after that. She still needs to catch up on her studies, same with Jack, but that might take a little longer, considering she needs to not only learn her studies, but improve her social skills. As for you two, I'm not so sure. Harry could probably get a job as a chef, maybe you could work in the school cafeteria. Certainly. I will feed those brats the best meal they have ever had in their lives. Harry beamed with pride in his voice. Now Itachi pondered on what to do with his remaining servant. Bob, did you ever finish high school? Well, I didn't have the best grades, and I didn't really finish either. Bob rubbed the back of his head, looking a little embarrassed. I see, this might be problematic. Itachi kept on thinking what to do with his pawn. Couldn't he just attend college? He is of proper age for that at least. Harry suggested. College? But like I said, I don't think my grades would be good enough to get me in. Bob replied. You could always get in on a scholarship, I'm certain Japan has that. You could maybe get in on a sports scholarship. Are there any sports you are particular good in? Harry asked the little petite nervous young man. Well, I'm good at boxing, and basketball. Bob uttered, and Harry looked like he would almost laugh when the word boxing was mentioned, considering it came out of Bob while looking like a frail young boy. That could work. Kua Academy has a college program, we could check if you could get in on a boxing scholarship, or basketball. I'm certain Father could pull some strings, same with Lord Gremory, they are in charge of the territory after all. Itachi looked satisfied as they had come to a solution to that problem. Now on to problem 2. By the way, do any of you have any thoughts on a new peerage member? Well, according to Kurika, nothing special has been reported for a potential candidate. And I got nothing either. Bob replied with a small nervous chuckle. I might have something, although it still remains uncertain. Harry rubbed his chin, pondering on the thought. Or maybe not. I see. Well, we can figure that one out later. Itachi let out a small sigh. Once the girls were finished showering, the guys went in and showered as well. And once that was finished, they went into the elevator leading up. Upon exiting the elevator, they were met with maids and butlers lined up in a row on each side, and a figure walked up to them bowing before Itachi. Itachi-sama, Sarafala-Jousama has requested that I accompany you and Sana-Jousama to the human world. The figure was an old man with silver gray hair and a beard. He wore glasses with black frames and wore a yellow shirt with an orange-green striped t-shirt underneath, and he had a blue hat on his head. So, Nasan sent her most trusted servant, it's been a while, Behemoth Sensei. Itachi spoke with a respectful tone towards this old man, and his servants all rose their brows in confusion upon hearing Itachi use the word sensei to this old geezer. Itachi-sama, who exactly is this? Naya? Kurika questioned, and Behemoth sent her a short glare. This is Behemoth, he is a part of Sirafal Nasan's peerage. He was also the one Nasan gave the job to when it came to teaching me magic. Itachi replied, and besides Jack and Harry, they bowed to the old man. So, this is your peerage, Itachi-sama. Heh, they look like a sorry bunch, not worthy of serving you or the noble Satrai household. Behemoth gave a look of disapproval at Itachi's peerage members, to which they all naturally looked offended. What was that? Kurika hissed in anger. Old man is making us angry. Jack narrowed her cold gaze at the man and was about to summon forth a blade. Bob looked too nervous to give a reply, yet he sent the man a glare. A large thud was felt as Harry walked up to Behemoth and bent down to his eye level. You'd be wise not to look down on me and the others, puny demon. A wave of heat was felt coming from Harry, to which Behemoth raised his brow a little and smirked. My, Itachi-sama, although this one has power suited for your peerage, he lacks discipline. I would expect better from an elderly gentleman such as himself. Behemoth remained unfazed and unaffected by the pressure coming from Harry. Stand down, Behemoth is at the same level as Graphia, the strongest queen, if not slightly stronger. Fighting him here will only result in a demolished castle, a scenario I want to avoid. Itachi ordered, although Harry did not budge and kept glaring at Behemoth. Also, Behemoth, I don't appreciate that comment about my peerage. I can assure you they are all more than worthy. Itachi stepped in between Harry and Behemoth. Behemoth let out a little sigh as he didn't seem wanting to argue with Itachi. Very well then, I shall stand down, although so far I'm not impressed. Behemoth sent a quick glare at Harry and turned back to Itachi, with a look of admiration. I must say, you've grown up a lot since the last time I saw you. It brings tears of pride to this old teacher's eye. At this rate, your strength and power will grow into that fitting to be the head of the Satrai. No, one of the next Formus. I know Seraphilajusama thinks so as well. Behemoth wiped away a small tear from his right eye, like a parent seeing their child grow up into an adult. I have no interest in being one of the Formus. Also tell Nasan that we don't require your assistant. Itachi said, and Behemoth's hopes and dreams looked like they had been destroyed in one fell swoop, as he fell to his knees. I must insist. Itachi-sama. Seraphilajusama only wants to make sure you and Sanajusama are safe. Behemoth instantly got back up and protested. We are just going to the human world, Nasan worries too much. Itachi replied with his usual stoic expression, seeming used to his sensei's personality. Now if you will excuse me, I have to meet up with Sana and Rias. Itachi walked past his old sensei, whom was on his knees once more, while Kurika snickered mockingly at Behemoth while following Itachi. Jack jumped onto Itachi's back, Bob quickly ran after them, and Harry looked at Behemoth before giving a small mocking smirk, and then he followed the others. How did you meet that old geezer anyway? Naya? Kurika questioned. Well, it all started back when I was 4 years old. Itachi thought back on after the very first meeting he had with Ajuka Beelzebub. Flashback 10 years ago. A 4-year-old Itachi stood with Seraphal, and before them stood Behemoth. Seraphal beamed while holding onto Itachi's shoulders. This is my servant Behemoth. He is going to train you in using magic and to perfect your demonic power. Seraphal had hired Behemoth to train Itachi after Itachi had revealed his dream during his examination with Ajuka Beelzebub about his eyes, and when Itachi requested a special training chamber so that he could get stronger and reach his goal. Despite thinking of this as a child's dream, Seraphal still wanted to encourage Itachi to grow stronger. Itachi gave a polite bow to his new sensei. I will be in your care then, Behemoth sensei. Itachi gave a polite smile at Behemoth, whom smiled back. Don't you worry, Seraphilajusama, I will make sure your little brother gets the best of treatment. We shall also see what kind of potential this young boy has. Come now, young master. Behemoth led the way to the training room. It didn't take long for Itachi to impress the old devil. Despite his age, Itachi had good control over his demonic power and magic elements, not to mention teleportation, and his physical strength far exceeded that of children his age, and he kept impressing the old man after weeks of training. The young Itachi spanned his body rapidly, shooting a rapid fire of water projectiles that hit all targets dead center and broke them into pieces. And then formed a water dragon out from the formed water projectiles, sending it flying into a steel wall, breaking it apart. Marvelous. Absolutely marvelous, Itachi-sama. Behemoth beamed with a smile and clapped his hands. After this, Behemoth started to view Itachi as his precious student, and was almost as overprotective as Seraphal. The old devil would stop by to train Itachi whenever he had time, and when he was not on jobs from Seraphal, sometimes the old man would stop by 10 times a year, and the rest Itachi would practice what he had learned by himself, and would impress Behemoth upon their next encounter. Behemoth instantly acknowledged Itachi's potential, and started proudly stating that Itachi would one day grow into being stronger than Surtsk's Lucifer himself. Flashback end. And that's about it? Itachi finished the explanation to Kurika. She didn't seem to expect anything less from a member of the overprotective and doting Seraphal Leviathan's peerage. He didn't seem that strong to us. Didn't look strong either. Jack pointed out, still latched onto Itachi's back. Well, he didn't show his true power, he doesn't usually tend to do that. Although I can assure you, he is quite strong. And to be fair, you don't exactly look powerful yourself, Jack. Itachi retorted with a slight amused smile at Jack, whom responded by pouting cutely. And if he had showed his true form, you might change your opinion on that. True form? Harry questioned with a raised brow. Behemoth is known as magical beast king of the earth, what you saw was more of a relaxed state of his. Itachi replied and decided to change the subject. Now, enough about my old sensei. About the trip, I am going to a meeting with the academy considering my special situation as the first male that will attend Kuaha. And Sana and Rias are going to have a look around town. You yourselves can pick whom you would like to accompany, or if you even want to tag along at all. I will go with you. I might as well ask if they are hiring anyone to work as a chef. Harry stated. We will go where mommy goes. Jack replied, and then Kurika whispered something into Jack's ear. You might not want to join him on the meeting, it will be boring anyway. Kurika whispered, seeing as it wouldn't do Itachi any good if they saw a little girl clinging onto him like that on school grounds. Okay, we shall accompany Kurika. Jack changed her mind when she heard it would be boring. Well, I think it's obvious I will be walking around town. Naya. Kurika said. I think I will go with you, to check on that scholarship thing. Bob uttered. Scholarship? Kurika raised a brow in confusion. Bob is going to check if he can get a scholarship so that he can apply for college next year. Itachi cleared away the confusion. Okay then, gather around everyone. Rias and Sana are already in the human world waiting for us. They all gathered around their master, as Itachi prepared a teleportation magic circle, and they all vanished in a flash. Human world, Kuaha town. Rias, Akeno, Konako, Sana, Tsubaki, Momo, and 3 others were waiting by a fountain in a park. One of the 3 was a handsome young man with short blonde hair and blue eyes. He had a mole underneath his left eye. He stood by Rias, Akeno, and Konako, while smiling and looking rather friendly. The 2 others were both young women. One had shoulder-length reddish-brown hair and brown eyes. She looked rather cheerful as she kept moving her legs back and forth while sitting on a park bench. The other girl was rather tall with shoulder-length blue hair and matching eyes. She looked rather tomboyish. She politely stood next to Tsubaki and Sana. He should be here by now. Rias looked frustrated and annoyed as she kept checking her watch to check the time. Calm down, he promised he would be here. And knowing Oni-sama he will be here. Sana looked rather calm, although inside she hoped that Itachi hadn't forgotten about today, although she knew it was highly unlikely. I think this will be the first time I even meet your big brother. The cheerful reddish-brown-haired girl said, looking rather excited. Indeed, I think this will be my first time meeting him as well. The blue-haired tomboy said. Well, the 2 of you have only been in my peerage for a week now. Tomo, Tsubasa. Sana spoke to her 2 new peerage members. The cheerful one was named Tomo Meguri, and the tomboy was named Tsubasa Yura. What do the 2 of you know about Itachi-sama? Tsubaki asked her 2 new comrades. Heard he is a lot like Master Sana, only more emotionless and stoic. But that he is a really nice guy, really responsible, smart, and really handsome. Tomo summarized what she had heard about her master's older twin brother. I have mostly heard the same, and that he is very strong. Tsubasa replied. Well, that is mostly what most people think of him. Sana smiled a little. I think this will be my first time meeting your fiancé as well, Lady Rias. The young man smiled kindly at his master. I think he and you will get along just fine, Yuato. He really is a wonderful guy. Ria smiled at her new knight whom she has had for about almost a month. His name was Kibayu Uto. Seems they are here. Akeno pointed out as a glowing blue magic circle appeared on the ground, and out came 5 figures. Made it just in time. Itachi stepped out with Kurika next to him, and Jack latched onto his back like a monkey. Harry stood tall behind them, and Bob hid behind the tall old man's leg. Good to see you have finally arrived, Oni-sama. Sana acted formally in front of her peerage members while standing before her older brother. You know, seeing you acting all formal like this is kind of strange. Considering how you normally are. Itachi smiled out of amusement and petted the top of Sana's head. Hey, stop it. Sana blushed out of embarrassment feeling her servant's gazes at her. That's new. Tsubasa uttered looking surprised of seeing her master's behavior. Lady Sana looks so cute though, she should just act like that all the time. Tomo let out an amused giggle, while Momo looked amused at seeing their reactions to this, and Tsubaki remained stoic and silent. Tomo's attention quickly turned to the petite shy little Bob hiding behind the old man. Ah, who is this little cutie? She instantly moved towards the petite little Bob whom looked spooked. I'm. Bob stuttered being too nervous to reply to a stranger. That is Bob, he is my pawn. Itachi introduced. This little cute guy is in Itachi-sama's peerage. Tomo bent to Bob's eye level and beamed with a smile. I'm Tomo Meguri. I'm Lady Sana's knight. Nice to meet you. She stretched her hand out to the little man, whom hesitantly reached his hand out, not waiting. Tomo instantly grabbed a hold of Bob's shaking hand and shook it while smiling warmly at him. And nice to meet you as well. Bob uttered. Tsubasa stared at the little petite man looking rather stoic, she couldn't seem to care less. He is a part of Itachi-sama's peerage? Hard to believe such a shrimp would catch someone like Itachi-sama's attention. Tsubasa thought and looked over to her master's older brother. I am Tsubasa Yura, I'm Sana Ajou-sama's rook, pleased to meet you, Itachi-sama. Tsubasa bowed politely to the Satrai heir. This caused Tomo to be aware of the situation and quickly went next to Tsubasa and also bowed politely to Itachi. No need to bow, Tsubasa, Tomo, allow me to welcome you to the Satrai family. Itachi warmly greeted the new additions to the Satrai household. Both the young women had a look of awe. Thank you very much. They both said in unison. Hello, Itachi. Rias walked up to Itachi with Akeno, Konako, and her new knight Kiba not far behind. Rias, it's good to see you. Itachi warmly smiled at the Gremory princess whom smiled back. We haven't had the chance to see each other for a few weeks, I've missed you. Rias gently embraced Itachi in a hug and Itachi returned the hug. I've missed you as well, Itachi. Akeno hugged his right arm between her breasts while giving a soft giggle, to which Ria sent a glare at her queen. Me too. Konako stood on Itachi's left looking up at him with a warm smile, to which he returned. Konako's smile then turned into a frown as she looked at Jack whom was still latched onto Itachi's back. Get off, monkey. Who are you calling a monkey? Kitten. Jack looked down on the younger Nikomata and sparks flew between them. Now, Chiron. Kurika embraced Konako from behind, much to the younger Nekomata's annoyance, while Kurika thought it was just fun to tease her cute little sister. Oni-chan has been lonely without her little Chiron, Naya. Kurika gave Konako a little wink, then she looked over to Itachi, Rias and Akeno. And don't think you can hog Itachi-sama all to yourselves. Naya. Sparks started flying between Kurika, Rias, and Akeno, and poor Itachi whom was caught in the middle of it sweat dropped while letting out a nervous chuckle. As you can see, Itachi-sama is quite popular. Momo pointed out to the two dumbfounded newcomers in the Satrai household. Much to someone's annoyance. Momo glanced over to Sana whom without realizing was pouting angrily at what she was seeing. Hey! Stop that already and let's get going. Sana scolded, to which they all stopped and looked over at her. Kurika gained a smug-looking expression. Ah, the little brocon is jealous. How cute, Naya. Kurika teased, to which Sana blushed even more. F for the last time. I am not a brocon. Sana blushed even more. Yeah right, keep telling yourself that. But what if I did this? Kurika grabbed a hold of Itachi's shirt and ripped it open, revealing his well-trained upper body. Kurika then gently stroked her hand on Itachi's chest, to which Sana's blush grew and she looked infuriated. Although that ended once Itachi gave her a light chop on the head. Naya. Kurika rubbed the top of her head. Please stop teasing my little sister, Kurika. Itachi sighed mentally and used a magic circle to fix his clothes, while the three newcomers looked dumbfounded at what they were seeing. Anyway, I am Kiba Yuoto, I am Lady Ria's new knight. Kiba smiled politely and stretched his hand out. Greetings Kiba, a friend of Ria's is a friend of mine. Itachi smiled back and shook his hand. Now, shall we all get going? Itachi. I'm feeling a bit sleepy, could I take a nap? Bob yawned, to which Tomo looked in awe at the cute little Bob. Certainly, would anyone mind carrying him? Itachi looked around, and before anyone could respond Tomo picked up Bob, piggybacking him. Well, that settles that I guess. Itachi said as Bob fell quickly fast asleep. Aw, isn't he cute, Tsubasa? Tomo looked at her teammate. Whatever. Tsubasa shrugged her shoulders. There is a few more hours until your meeting with the academy, right? Rias looked over to her fiancé. It starts in about 4 hours, Bob and Harry are going to accompany me there later. In the meantime, why don't we all go and take a look around town? For the remaining 4 hours, the group went to look around town, seeing the different shops, cafes, the local park, the apartment complex building Lord Gremory and Lord Citrai had built for Itachi, Sana, Rias, and their group to live in when they start attending the academy. Eventually they walked past a local maid cafe, and as soon as they were a slight distance away a figure was kicked out from the cafe. Hey! What's the big idea? I'm a paying costumer. The figure, whom was obviously male from his deep voice, questioned, looking at the head maid. No touching the maids. The head maid huffed and slammed the door. Don't I at least get a see you later, master? The man cried, although he instantly stopped crying as he looked to the side and spotted Itachi. Huh? Hey, that's... The man smirked and steadily began his approach. He halted when a man with an up-high t-shirt walked by talking to his friend. Hey, nice shirt. The man started following the up-high t-shirt man instead. Later, Itachi and Harry then walked out from Kyoa Academy after having been through a meeting, and Harry through a job interview. The meeting for Itachi was basically the principal saying how grateful she was for having such a talented young man to start as their first male student. And of course, going through certain rules, schedules, and discussing how they could make a comfortable environment for Itachi and other future male students at the academy. So, how did it go? Itachi looked over at his rook, whom looked down and huffed with pride. Obviously it went well. And I assume it went well for Bob's scholarship. Harry asked, still with a prideful tone. Seems the old man had gained respect for Itachi and the rest of the peerage members. Yes, Father and Lord Gremory said something about pulling some strings so that Bob can get into Kyoa Academy's collage program. Itachi replied, and Harry gave proudful smile. Shall we meet up with the others? Harry asked while checking the time. They said we would meet up by the nearby bridge, let's go. As Itachi and Harry were walking to meet up with the others, a shadowy figure followed them from the shadows. Meanwhile, on a bridge. Shouldn't they be done by now? Itachi is taking too long. Rias pouted over the fact that her beloved wasn't here with her. Calm down, thanks to this meeting he will be able to attend the academy with us next year. Sana said, looking calm as ever, but even she started to feel lonely without her older twin brother. They had been nearly inseparable for years since they were born, but this whole peerage business and training stuff had cut into their time for weeks now. To put it in a different way, it felt weird being without her brother. You say that, but I'm sure you're all frustrated over not being able to spend the whole day with big brother dearest. Akeno teased the youngest Satrai, whom blushed faintly. That's not true. Sana uttered, to which everyone gave her a look that said they thought her reaction was cute, besides Bob, whom was still asleep on Tomo's back, and Jack, whom didn't seem to care. We miss mommy. Jack looked like a lost little child while standing next to Kurika, whom petted the top of her head. Don't worry, he will be back. Naya. Kurika said in a sweet gentle tone, and the newest additions to the group looked confused at Jack's claim of missing her mommy. Tsubasa didn't know how to respond to what little Jack said and looked confused. Oh, Jack calls Itachi for mommy. Don't ask why, she just does. Sana explained it to her two new peerage members and Kiba. Aw, that's adorable. Tomo beamed. And yet I am not used to it. Itachi and Harry arrived at the scene, much to Rias, Sana, Akeno, Kurika, Konako and Jack's joy, whom instantly latched herself onto him like a little monkey. I'm sorry, the meeting lasted longer than I expected. Although it went quite well. Itachi said while petting the top of Jack's head, much to her joy. Shall we get going then? Before anyone could walk a step, Itachi froze suddenly like he was wrapped up in something. Strings. Itachi couldn't see them, but he knew they were there from the feeling. He activated his Sharingan and he could see the strings wrapped around his body clear as day. This whole area is surrounded. Kurika replied, feeling the strings with the help of her senjutsu. So, he finally shows himself. Harry utters, and the sound of clapping was heard as a figure approached them. Took me some time to find you, devil. Although I must say, this might be easier than expected. That's fine with me though. The figure had messy brown hair, he wore glasses, had a red hat with the initials DD on them, and he wore a t-shirt with the word up high written on it. But dang, the trip made it all worth it. I just love this country. The man practically sang out. Who are you? Rias questioned while forming a magic circle in her palm, glaring at the man whom had trapped her beloved. Oh. Right, manners, sorry. I'm Damien, and I am an assassin, so to speak, or a bounty hunter if you will. Anyway, someone gave me a call, putting a price on this guy's head. So, nothing personal, just doing my job. Damien replied with a carefree grin, not seeming bothered by the power Rias was releasing. By the way, are you guys also devils? I must say I was super shocked to learn that devils existed, not that I have anything against devils or anything. In fact, if all devil girls look like this, I'm a big fan. Damien gave a wink, to which the girls looked disgusted. Let him go, or else. Rias gave one last final warning, charging up a sphere of destruction. Oh, that is so cool. Damien looked in awe. Rias then blasted the sphere at him, and Damien moved his right hand up and his left down, as strings wrapped around Rias' attack and negated it into nothingness. Even though Rias held back as it was just a warning shot, they were all still shocked that he was able to negate her attack. A sacred gear. Sana walked up next to Rias as she analyzed the barely visible threads. A string-based sacred gear. If I'm not mistaken, it's a sacred gear called piano string. A sacred gear said to negate magic-based attacks that are less than double of the wielder's power. Rias thought back on the studies she had gone through with Itachi and Sana on known sacred gears. Oh, interesting. Itachi hummed, looking emotionlessly at Damien and looking at the strings that came from his fingertips. I would say with his level of power, we need to get a little serious. More than half our power should do. Sana analyzed based on the power she felt from Damien. Huh? Magic what? Damien looked dumbfounded, not seeming to know that magic even existed. I just tried to slow down that attack, I had no idea that would happen. Cool. Wait, more than half. Damien started to look a little nervous as Rias formed a larger destruction sphere and Sana gathered waves of water in front of her. Oh shit. Damien started to run as the attacks blasted into the spot where he once stood. Jack. Itachi called his knight whom was still latched onto him, and tied up into him. Can you get us out of here? Maybe. Jack replied. Then what's stopping you? Itachi questioned as Jack didn't do anything. We don't want to. Mommy feels so warm. Jack looked comfortable as she tightened her embrace on Itachi, to which he sighed. Harry, could you maybe get me out? Itachi looked up at his rook, who merely stood still looking at this assassin, not seeming interested in interfering either. Harry. Itachi raised his brow wondering what was going through that old man's mind. Tsubasa unleashed a barrage of punches and kicks at Damien whom countered most strikes. He looked astonished. Wow, this young lady has some power. Damien uttered in awe, and then suddenly Konako appeared behind him and threw a heavy punch that Damien caught. Oh, aren't you a cutie? Damien gave a perverted grin that reminded Itachi of Jiraiya. Gross. Konako glared at him and then Damien got blasted in the back by a barrage of blue fire from Kurika. Stay away from my little Chiron. Naya. Kurika acted like an overprotective older sister, which caused Konako to blush slightly. A cat girl? A real cat girl? Man, you devils seem to just have an awesome life. I want in. Damien practically sang that last part. However, the job comes first. Guess I have to get serious. Then at immense speed Damien changed outfit into a black butler outfit, he slicked his hair back and put on white gloves. Serious mode. What the? How did he do that? Tomo questioned in surprise, and gently put the sleeping Bob down and summoned forth a normal sword. Tomo tried to cut through the strings on Itachi but to no avail. Don't bother, these strings are not ordinary. Focus on taking him down instead, and be careful his power also increased drastically. He is almost at high-class devil level. Itachi warned as Damien's power had gone from low class, to low-high class. Then Rias, Sana, Akeno, and myself should be stronger than him. Tsubaki said and summoned forth a Naginata. Don't use your magic, the four of you don't have enough magic power to take him on. He will be able to negate it. Kurika, Harry, and I are the only ones here with enough magic power to power through those strings. One of you should take him out. Itachi looked at his rook and queen. Kurika responded by going in for the attack, but Harry stood still. Damn, Tsubasa, Tomo assist Kurika. The two of you are not magic dominant when it comes to combat. Sana ordered her servants. Konako. Yuato. The same goes for you. Rias ordered her servants. Right. The four of them replied and charged head-on towards Damien with Kurika in the lead. Harry, why aren't you doing anything? Itachi asked and Harry acknowledged Itachi with a glance in his direction. I have my reasons. Harry replied. Care to share? Itachi asked. Well, I want to see what the new ones can do. And also, I hired him. Harry said, to which Itachi widened his eyes in confusion. I said I might have someone in mind for a candidate, didn't I? Harry smiled at Itachi, to which Itachi let out a sigh. Wish you had filled me in on your plan. Itachi looked at the fight as it seemed to be quite evenly matched. Konako and Tsubasa were barely able to match Damien for blow to blow. Tomo and Kiba used their superior speed to try and cut Damien but struggled getting through his strings. And Kurika sent a barrage fire of blue fireballs that were able to power through the strings, yet Damien avoided them by jumping back. This seems like it's going to be problematic. Damien uttered and took a quick glance at Itachi, whom was still tied up, and at Harry standing tall next to him. That old man. I can feel his power from here. He is probably the most dangerous one here. I should kill him now and run. Damien moved his fingers and the strings tightened around Itachi. Jack. Itachi said, looking emotionless as always, and suddenly the strings holding him were cut. What the? Before Damien could look at the source that cut his strings, he was punched in the face by Tsubasa, sending him skidding back. Not bad. Damien spitted out some blood to the side, and then moved at immense speed for a normal human and punched Tsubasa in the gut, making her vomit out a small puddle of blood. Your strength is close to mine, yet mine is superior. I have trained my body to its physical peak. Devil or not, I won't go down easy. Damien avoided a slice from Tomo by jumping into the air. Sword birth. Out from the ground popped up on the ground beneath Damien. This is Kiba's sacred gear, sword birth. He can summon multiple demonic swords. It's almost like Jack's, just a weaker version. Rias explained with pride in her new servant. Well shit. Damien uttered as he was falling towards the blades. He extended his arms out and directed them at a safe spot, the strings attached to the ground, and Damien pulled himself towards the spot, avoiding the blades. That was close. He then avoided a hit and a kick from Konako. Damien jumped back and was now being chased by a rapid blast of fire from Kurika. He then leaped towards the older Nikomata and kneed her in the gut, making her vomit out a little blood. He then slammed her into the ground, cracking the ground up and sending petals of rock flying around the area, and one petal landed on the sleeping Bob's head, whom groggily opened his eyes. How long has Bob been asleep? Itachi questioned, looking over at his pawn. 4 hours or a little more. Jack replied, as Bob has been mostly asleep for their entire trip. Bob stands up and walks towards Damien, whom is facing Tsubasa, Kiba, and Tomo. Bob-chan. Don't, he is too dangerous. Tomo warned and looked confused when she saw everyone else besides her. Tsubasa, Kiba and Damien looked concerned. Who is the shrimp? Damien questioned when suddenly Bob grew taller, and was now taller than Tsubasa and still slightly shorter than Damien. His body also turned more muscular and he slicked his dark bed hair back, leaving a single strain of hair over his forehead. What happened to cute little Bob-chan? Tomo cried. This is Bob's magic ability. Storage magic. The more he sleeps the stronger he becomes and his body grows. He should return to normal in about 20 hours. Itachi explained, considering Bob has slept for about 4 hours according to Jack. Wow. Tsubasa widened her eyes while looking at Bob, whom cracked his neck while facing Damien, looking at him with a cold expression. You woke me up. Bob glared at the assassin. I'm sorry, if I knew this would happen, I would have been more careful. Damien smiled confidently and threw a powerful punch into Bob's chest, and then a mighty right hook to his face, sending Bob into the ground. At this point, he is mid-class level. Although that can change really easily. Itachi commented, and Bob sent him a look. Master Itachi. Yes Bob, I acknowledge this as enemy territory, now go. Itachi confirmed and Bob let out a blue glow. Promotion Queen. Bob uttered as his power increased to that of a high-class devil. He then cracked his knuckles and glared at Damien. Now, my turn. Bob threw a heavy punch right into Damien's face, sending him flying back so far that he almost fell off the bridge. The three new reincarnated devils looked in awe, particularly Tsubasa, whom was captivated by Bob's strength, his muscles, his power, that warrior-like face. Tsubasa's face grew hotter as she blushed faintly from looking at Bob. What the? His power grew, and that punch, he is stronger than me? Is this what devils are capable of? Damien asked himself while rubbing his jaw. I will have you know, I was born human. Master Itachi made me into a devil and a part of his family. Bob said, to which Damien widened his eyes. You mean he can turn anyone into a devil? Damien looked intrigued. Cool. Bob charged towards Damien. Bob stuck his right palm out, and pulled his arm back. Damien, who moved his hands around as Bob's body was suddenly tied up with a bunch of strings before he could attack. Like I would let you, I win. Damien smirked as Bob struggled but couldn't even move an inch. Bob! Kurika shouted as everyone looked worried. Jack! Itachi called out. Rebellion! And the strings around Bob was cut up by little Jack wielding a special white dagger decorated with red lines and letting out a powerful energy. Huh! Damien widened his eyes in confusion, having been caught off guard by little Jack. Thanks, Jack. Bob swung his palm forward, sending a gigantic shockwave crashing into Damien, sending him flying off the bridge and into the water. And that ends that. Bob declared victory, seeing the knocked out Damien floating in the water. I still wish he stayed a cute little guy. Tomo pouted. Amazing. Tsubasa uttered in awe, having completely changed her mind about Bob. Sometime later, Damien woke up looking rather groggy. Oh, ouch, my head. What the? Damien looked up and saw that the group of devils had surrounded him. Who hired you? Sana instantly questioned, grabbing him by the collar, wanting to know who was after her brother. I don't know, it was anonymous. Damien replied, not seeming scared or threatened by Sana. I hired him. Harry spoke up, to which everyone looked shocked besides Itachi and Jack, whom heard him say it earlier. Explain. Rias demanded. Itachi has been looking for potential peerage members. I figured if I hired Damien, he could demonstrate personally to Itachi what he was capable of. Harry explained himself, and all of them did not look like they were okay with it. What if he had killed him? Kurika hissed at Harry. Oh please, like he could actually kill him. If he tried, the boy would be dead in 10 seconds flat. Harry rolled his eyes at that everyone was getting so upset about all this. Hey! I could have lasted longer than that. Damien whined like a little child. Heh, you still wouldn't last long. Without any proper intel, he would have killed you in the span of that time. Harry boasted, ignoring looking Damien in the eye. Ah, the old man is shy. Damien sung in a mocking-like tone, and Harry sent him a death glare, causing Damien to cower away. It was a joke, a joke. Anyway, this was a fake job. Man. Look, I'm the kind of guy whom finishes a job no matter what, so dash. We won't let you, he is too important to me, I mean us. Ria said and hugged Itachi's arm, her eyes filled with fiery determination to not let any harm come to him. Okay then, I will not kill him. Damien replied, to which they all looked shocked. What happened to finish a job no matter what? Bob questioned with a raised brow. Give me a good reason and I will back off, and love is a good reason. I don't kill people who don't deserve it. Damien replied with a gentle-like smile. Huh, I see. Itachi looked emotionless and then he looked over to Harry. So, this whole ordeal was so he could show me what he is capable of. That was the idea. Harry replied. Who the hell even are you, old man? I have never met you in my entire life and yet you seem to know me. Damien started his own interrogation. I am the mighty, Harry Newgate, boy. And as to how I know you, I happened to find you in the local underworld newspaper. Harry replied, causing Damien to fall over. Well, he does have potential, and skills for a normal human. Itachi pondered on the thought. Anyway, don't I get something for this? Fake job or real job, I still demand payment. Damien rubbed his fingers together while looking at Harry. I'm not giving you a cent, you should feel honored that you are even considered to be a part of our family. Harry lectured him like he was a little child. What are you now, my father? Get over with the lectures, old man, and pay me already. Damien demanded, and then his eyes landed on little Jack. Damien instantly changed back into how he was before he went serious, up-high t-shirt, red hat, messy hair, everything. She is so adorable. He lifted Jack up, whom stared at him with a stoic expression. She is Jack the Ripper. Kurika pointed out. Jack the Ripper? This little thing? She is so innocent, harmless, and adorable. The very next moment Jack stabs him, Damien looks down and then up at Jack. She is so adorable. He corrected as she kept stabbing him with a stoic face. His multi-personality thing aside, he does have quite the useful sacred gear, if he learns to use it right. Itachi hummed, thinking over recruiting this assassin as his newest peerage member. He's an idiot, but I'm certain he will pull his weight around. Harry sighed at the young man's behavior. Will you tell me first what your relationship is with him? Itachi asked, and he and Itachi walked to the other end of the bridge, far away from hearing distance for the others. Ignoring the scene of Damien still getting stabbed by Jack, Rias, Sana, Akeno, and Kurika look in the direction of Harry and Itachi talking. They see Itachi look shocked for a moment. What do you think they are talking? Rias questioned. Not sure, although I don't think I have seen Oni-san look that shocked before. Sana replied. Despite their amazing hearing, they still couldn't hear Itachi and Harry. Can you hear what they are saying, Kurika? All I hear is mumbling, can't really make out what it is they are saying though. Naya. Kurika replied, desperately trying to listen in on the conversation. Look, they are coming back. Akeno pointed out. So how old is he? Itachi asked while he and Harry were walking back. He is 25, according to the ad in the newspaper. Harry replied. We should probably stop Jack from killing him then. Itachi sighed and they walked back to the others, getting Jack away from the bloodied Damien, yet Damien would not let go. Don't worry, I can survive over 100 stabs thanks to this cuteness. Damien uttered weakly, looking rather pale from losing blood. Jack, stop stabbing him. Itachi spoke like a parent would to a child to make them stop. Jack stopped stabbing Damien and looked over to Itachi with a stoic face. Then Damien tried to reach out a kiss Jack, to which Jack stabbed him again. Okay, you win. Damien lets go and falls into a puddle of his own blood. Well, can't let a life go to waste. Itachi sighed and summoned forth 3 pawn pieces. Out of the pieces I have left, I think he would suit to be a pawn. Itachi held out 1 pawn, no reaction, 2, no reaction, and 3 they started to glow and merged with the fallen assassin's body. Damien then woke up, looking at himself, seeing that all the stab wounds were gone. What happened? I reincarnated you into a devil, you are now my servant, and if you are to disobey and leave you will become a stray devil, and be hunted by other devils. Your job is simple, fulfill requests from humans for payment. When needed, hunt down stray devils. I offer you a new home in return and welcome you into my family, the Citrai household. All I ask from you is that you do a proper job and remain loyal. I am Itachi Citrai, the next head of the Citrai family. As a devil you also get a boost in power, speed, and stamina, you also get wings. Itachi gave a quick summary and Damien seemed to understand it. Wait, so I'm a devil now? Yes. And I can get way stronger now? Damien asked, as it seemed strength mattered a great deal to him. Yes, you can. Itachi replied. That is so cool. Damien smiled as an image of a dead woman in his arms came to his mind. Then, never again. I won't lose anyone dear to me ever again with my new power. Damien clenched his fist. In an attempt to get over his short feeling of sorrow, he embraced little Jack in a hug. What's more, if I get to hang around this little cutie, I will remain loyal. Looking at her just makes me want to steal her. Damien smirked at Jack, whom sent him a cold glare and brought forth a new knife, and Damien started backing away. Okay, you are a feisty little one, aren't ya? Anyway, welcome to my family. Itachi stretched his hand out and Damien looked at it, and then at him. You know I tried to kill you, right? Damien looked confused, bringing up the issue on why he even decided to bring him back. Yes, although I think you can be quite useful. Besides, like you said, it wasn't anything personal. Itachi didn't really mind, After what he and Harry talked about, he didn't really mind. It was shocking. But still, Damien would need to prove himself to be loyal in the future. We would have to see what would happen. Meanwhile, from a distance, on top of a building sat a lonely old man that was Behemoth. Magic energy gathered into his palm before it faded. Itachi-sama seems to have picked up yet another servant. That boy should consider himself lucky. If he does anything to hurt Itachi-sama, he shall feel my wrath. Behemoth then vanished in an instant through a magic circle.